Welcome to Griffith Park, an urban oasis of 4,071 acres, teeming with life and joy. A world-famous park, and possibly America's second most famous park after Central Park in New York. Home to the Hollywood sign, and the famous Griffith Park Observatory. But what if I told you that this park is believed to be cursed by many? Beneath the beauty of this park lies some of the strangest and most twisted history in Southern California. From its beginnings as Rancho Los Feliz to its modern-day transformation into a giant urban park, the land within this park has been home to inexplicable tragedies and supernatural tales. Today, I will dive into the history behind the curse of Griffith Park. Welcome to Waste Media. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. The story begins long ago, in 1795, when the land is said to have been granted to Jose Vicente Feliz by Spanish authorities as a reward for his service. Jose Vicente Feliz was a Spanish soldier and settler who participated in the 1775 through 1776 Anza expedition, which brought the first settlers to California. He was born around 1741 in Sonora, Mexico, and was a member of a prominent colonial Spanish family. Rancho Los Feliz covered 6,647 acres and stretched from the Los Angeles River to the Hollywood Hills, including present-day Griffith Park. The land would remain under the ownership of the Feliz family for decades and was said to be extremely fertile and rich. By the mid-19th century, the rancho was under the ownership of Don Antonio Feliz, a wealthy landowner who lived in a modest adobe home on the property with his niece, Doña Petronilla, and his sister, Soledad. This adobe home still stands today and now serves as a ranger station. It is one of the oldest surviving buildings in Los Angeles. Things were calm at Rancho Los Feliz, but in 1863 tragedy struck. Don Antonio contracted smallpox, which at the time was ravaging the region. Fearing for his niece's safety, he sent her to stay at a hotel in downtown Los Angeles, a decision that would later prove to have devastating consequences. As Don Antonio's condition grew worse, he lay alone in his bed. While stuck to his bed, he was visited by a longtime friend, Antonio Coronel, a former mayor of Los Angeles, and Coronel's lawyer. It was at some point during this visit that Feliz's will dividing his vast estate was altered. In an unexpected change of fate, the new will drafted that night completely bypassed Don Antonio Feliz's niece, Petronilla, leaving the entire rancho to Coronel and leaving only minor possessions such as furniture to Soledad. Some accounts suggest that Don Antonio was coerced into signing the document while incapacitated. Some tales even claim Coronel and his lawyer propped up Don Antonio with a stick and forced him to nod in agreement. Petronilla, the niece, became enraged and confronted Coronel and his lawyer. It is at this moment that the curse of Griffith Park is said to have begun, as Petronilla began to curse them, the land, and anyone who dared to benefit from it. The curse is said to have taken hold immediately after Don Antonio's death. Coronel's lawyer was fatally shot in a bar fight soon after the estate transfer. Drought and famine devastated the rancho, killing cattle and rendering the fields barren. Workers on the property allegedly saw ghostly figures riding through the hills during violent floods, including the forms of Don Antonio and Petronilla. Word of the curse began to spread around Los Angeles, and prospective buyers began to avoid the land. The once prosperous rancho began to fall into decline. The curse didn't end with Coronel. In the following years, nearly every subsequent owner of Rancho Los Feliz experienced tragedy. Charles Howard, one of the land's owners, was fatally shot in circumstances eerily similar to Coronel's lawyer. Charles Howard was killed in 1869 in a saloon during an unplanned gun duel by Daniel B. Nichols, who was the son of a former mayor of Los Angeles. Leon Lucky Baldwin, a well-known financier and wealthy landowner, lost a fortune trying to develop the land as a cattle ranch. Lucky Baldwin was responsible for creating the towns of Arcadia and Monrovia by subdividing some of his land. The city of Sierra Madre is also located on land he once owned. Thomas Bell, another man who briefly owned the land, also met a tragic end when he was allegedly pushed down a staircase by a mistress in his Sonoma County mansion. As these events occurred, the land became infamous, driving away remaining potential buyers. But in 1882, Colonel Griffith J. Griffith became the land's final private owner. He purchased over 4,000 acres with visions of prosperity, but his time with the land quickly became plagued by failure and misfortune too. He attempted to establish an ostrich farm to attract visitors, but this ended in a failure. According to legend, it is said that Griffith himself avoided the property at night, fearful of the paranormal activity and the ill fortune that seemed to haunt the land. In 1898, Griffith donated much of the land to the city of Los Angeles. To celebrate the occasion, a banquet was held at the Feliz Adobe, where something that would shake Griffith J. Griffith and his guests to the core is said to have occurred. According to legend, on the night of the banquet, the ghost of Antonio Feliz appeared before the guests within the adobe. Chaos erupted as the guests began to flee in terror, with some claiming to see the ghost pursuing them on horseback. Although Griffith was an extremely successful businessman, he is said to have struggled with deep paranoia and a secret addiction to alcohol. This paranoia reached a tipping point in 1903 while vacationing with his wife at the luxurious Arcadia Hotel in Santa Monica. He became convinced that his wife and the Pope were conspiring to poison him and decided to take matters into his own hands. During a heated confrontation, Griffith pulled a revolver on his wife and demanded that she confess to the imagined plot. He shot her at point-blank range. Miraculously, she survived, but the bullet shattered her eyes, leaving her blind on one side and permanently disfigured. She managed to escape by leaping out of a window onto an awning. Griffith was arrested and charged with assault with a deadly weapon and intent to kill. His trial became a media spectacle, with his wife testifying about his secret alcoholism and delusions. Despite the damning evidence, Griffith received a remarkably light sentence of just 2 years in San Quentin. The judge attributed his actions to alcoholic insanity and allowed for medical treatment during his incarceration. The incident left Griffith a disgraced figure in Los Angeles society. His marriage ended in divorce, and he spent the rest of his life trying to rehabilitate his tarnished reputation. Even after his release, his attempts to donate $100,000 for the construction of park landmarks like the Greek Theater and the Griffith Observatory were rejected by city officials due to his notoriety. In 1919, Griffith died of liver disease. Though his financial fortune eventually funded the observatory and the theater, his name was forever tied to the scandal, and Mount Griffith was renamed Mount Hollywood to distance his legacy. Perhaps another casualty of the Griffith Park curse. Even once the park became public, the curse is said to have continued. In 1933, a catastrophic wildfire claimed the lives of at least 29 firefighters, making it one of the deadliest wildfires in US history at the time. Even with the troubled past, the park remains a beautiful symbol of Los Angeles. I often hike here, and there's few places where one can actually feel more comfortable in LA than within this park. Sometimes you'll hear a pack of coyotes crying into the night, or the sound of an owl nearby. But the next time you're in this park, think of all the history you're walking through. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.